Welcome to the Lincoln City Council meeting of the 19th of June, 2017. Please join us and rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silent meditation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to begin today by recognizing the mayors here for the Award of Excellence.
Chairman, time to recognize one more excellent city employee. And this is the Mayor's Award of Excellence for May. It's being presented to Police Officer Lana Groves, who works in the Forensic Identification Unit of the Police Department. She was nominated in the categories of productivity and safety by Forensic Lab Manager Aaron Sims for her recent work on 3 different specific cases that led to the clearance of a total of 6 armed robberies and 4 gun store burglaries. Officer Groves is a certified latent print examiner, certified through the International Association of Identification. Latent prints are a type of physical evidence that can be found at the scene of a crime. The first case involved was an armed bank robbery in December of 2016. One of 2 robbers left behind a plastic bag, which was sent to Officer Groves. She found a receipt inside, which resulted in the retailer providing video of the suspects. She also processed the receipt and bags for prints, which led to identification of a second suspect who was then arrested. Further investigation led to the arrest of the second suspect on additional charges. Robbery. Continued investigation led to the clearance of 4 convenience store robberies committed by those 2 suspects. The second case was a burglary at a jewelry and pawn shop. Groves again processed a plastic bag left at the scene and was able to identify a possible suspect who was subsequently arrested. A warrant for the suspect's phone revealed photos of numerous stolen guns, and a second suspect was subsequently arrested. Further investigation led to the clearance of 3 additional gun store burglaries, recovering some but not all of the guns. The third case actually occurred in February of 2016 when a bank was robbed by a man who again left behind a plastic bag. After hearing about Officer Groves' success in recovering latent prints from plastic bags, the investigators sent the bag to her for processing. Officer Groves was again able to identify a suspect who lived in Omaha. Lincoln and Omaha police continue to work together to locate this particular individual in order to clear that robbery and several other cases in which he is suspected. Sims said numerous officers and investigators did good work on the cases, but she wrote, Officer Groves provided the missing pieces that gave investigators the information they needed to focus their investigation and resources on the parties responsible and stopping these criminals from committing future violent gun-related offenses. So it's my pleasure to present Lana Groves with the Mayor's Award of Excellence for May. So please join me in congratulating her. I think our police chief would like to say a few words.
Thanks, Mayor. Mayor, thank you. Council, thanks again for allowing us the opportunity to showcase another one of our outstanding employees that is dedicated to the safety and security of this community. You know, fictional television has created an expectation that what the mayor just read is easy to do, and it's the farthest thing from the truth. We talk all the time about preventing crime from happening, and we're hopeful that we can do that. Unfortunately, that's a tall task, and especially when it relates to violent crime, as what the mayor just talked about. These were a series of crimes that were escalating in violence, that were jeopardizing everybody that lives here. And because of Alana's hard work and her dedication, she was able to obtain a print that was extremely difficult on a surface that is really hard to do. And working collaboratively with our investigative units led to the arrest of a couple people, and that prevented, undoubtedly, other crime from occurring. So, outstanding work in collaboration, and we're very proud of Alana.
Great. Well, I want to thank everyone, especially my manager, Aaron Sims, first of all, for writing this up for me. Also, the police department, I've enjoyed working there for the past 22 years. It's a great place to be. Love the city of Lincoln. Want to thank all of you, the mayor, my coworkers. Who was all? Bob. I have my family here today with me, my mother and father, Charlie and Edie, Jared Maneri, who's one of my coworkers in my office, Aaron Sims, my great supervisor, my two boys, I have Brady and Jordan, and then behind I have actually my sister came today also, and her children. And in the back, we have actually our volunteer. She's a fantastic lady. She does a lot of work for us back in our ID unit, Donna. And then Kayla from our office. And Tammy, our great IT person. Who else is here? Oh, Kenny Kojal. Most people probably know him. He's been around a long time. Of course, the assistant chief. And Cassidy is here also. So, again, I just want to thank everyone. So, thank you.
Thank you, Officer Groves. All right. While I read this wonderful order of business, it'll give other people a chance to depart the room. In accordance with LB 898, a copy of the Open Meetings Act is posted in the back of the chamber. The order of business of the City Council is as follows. The clerk will call the items listed on the agenda under public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on an item should come forward after the clerk reads that item. The applicant and those in favor should speak first, then those opposed. The applicant may then make one short rebuttal. Each speaker should begin by stating name, address, and whether you are speaking in favor or in opposition to the item. Testimony is limited to 5 minutes per speaker. After all public hearings, the council will vote on resolutions and items listed under third reading. On the second and last meetings of the month, immediately prior to adjournment, anyone may speak on an issue not on the agenda for that date nor planned for a future agenda. This is not an open mic meeting, sorry. Will the clerk please call the first item?
Yes, our first item of business is our public hearing consent agenda. They are items 1 through 18.
Would anyone like to testify on any of these items? Seeing none?
All right, if not, we can vote on these items. Items 1 through 7 were introduced by Raybold.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Oop.
Nope, do we have an appointee?
We have someone here as being appointed, Mr. Frericks.
Okay,
Come on forward.
Hello. I'm here to seek approval for the Veterans Memorial Garden Advisory Council. And I'd like to serve my community in that capacity if possible. The City of Lincoln, the state of Nebraska, and this country have been wonderful to me and my family. All of my children graduated from Lincoln High, and they all have advanced degrees. I served in the Marine Corps from June of '68 to June of '71, and met lots of wonderful people in there, and I served in the United States and in Vietnam and Japan, and I'm hoping that I can help with recognizing our current veterans that are coming back from the Middle East and serving our country. I think our all-volunteer Army is the best the world has ever known, but they are stressed. One family that I'm following, she did 2 tours as a Black Hawk helicopter pilot in Iraq, and her husband has done 5 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. He's a captain in the Army. And if you would, think about that when you sit down to dinner at night with your family, how it would be to do 7 tours overseas and try and maintain a family life with 4 and a 7-year-old sons. So I think we need to support our veterans as much as possible, and I'll do anything that I can do to help for the veterans and our community. We live in a wonderful city. We don't realize how wonderful Lincoln is. It's just a beautiful city.
All right.
So
Any questions?
that's why I'm here.
Could you state your name and address for the record?
Claude Frericks, 5100 West Sumner Circle, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Great.
And my wife and I have been there for 41 years, so we're.
Okay. Cindy?
Thank you, Mr. Frericks. Thank you for your service and your willingness to serve the community. I want to tell you that Veterans Memorial Garden is one of my favorite places in the city of Lincoln. Love the different events they have out there, and it sounds like you're going to just strengthen the advisory board. So thank you for being willing to serve in that area.
It is a beautiful place, and I would like to someday see where there's not a necessity for veterans memorials. It would be neat if we didn't have any wars, and I was thinking that the internet would solve all of them. For some reason, it didn't work out that way.
All right. Well, thank you, sir.
Okay,
Appreciate you being here.
thank you.
Hey, Teresa?
All right, we can vote on these items. 1 through 7 were introduced by Raybold.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Jane, seconded by Lyrian. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Items 8 and 9 were introduced by Schob.
So move.
Second.
Moved by Benny, seconded by Jane. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then are public hearing liquor resolutions. Those giving testimony are asked to come forward, raise their right hand for the clerk to administer the oath. After the oath, witnesses shall state their names and addresses. I'll call items 19 and 20 together. They're the application of Asian Fusion for a Class I liquor license at 2840 Jamie Lane and the related manager application.
Investigator Conan Schaefer, Lincoln Police Department. It's my understanding that the attorney representing Asian Fusion is on her way, just running a little bit late. If it's possible to just do that one
Is that her maybe?
Just arrived.
afterwards. She did just arrive, yes.
Are you here for Asian Fusion?
We're ready for you.
Come on down.
I had more time at 112.
That's okay. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yes,
Thank you. Just state your name and address.
Jennifer Tomka, I'm an attorney for Asian Fusion. My address is P.O. Box 21855, Lincoln, Nebraska 68542.
Thank you.
Ms. Tomko, will you please tell us about the application?
Well, I almost said Your Honor, so you said, it's just ignored. Actually, this is, it's kind of a continuance of the last license. What happened is the Liquor Commission didn't notice that the status of the corporation changed, where they had a new, their, what do you call it, like a local agent left the business. So rather than going to the corporate status and changing that information, they got an entirely new corporation. So nothing in the business from the last application has changed whatsoever. They've been in business for, I believe, 3-4 years now. But nothing has changed except for the corporate status. And so that's why we had to kind of start over on the liquor license application. And so that's what we did, in a completely new liquor license application for Asian Fusion, which is now, instead of Asian Fusion LLC, it's Asian Fusion NE LLC. That is the only difference in it. And now they know better as well as to ask me prior to renewing if there's something we need to do with the corporate status. But that's the only thing that's changed. I know you approved it the last time and they've been doing well. And so I would just ask that it be approved again.
Questions? Carl?
Yeah, is there a new manager?
Yes, and it's in the application.
Okay, and is the manager here?
I don't think, yes, she's right here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, if she could come, yeah.
Yeah, she doesn't
please.
understand very well, so that's. This is
Aye.
actually, she's one of the owners as well, so,
Would you raise your right hand?
right.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you really believe it to be?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. You want to ask?
For her.
Have you completed your training class?
Yes, that was actually completed a few years ago.
Okay.
Because she was actually the manager on the application the last time, so.
Oh, okay.
And she's done continuing as she's
So
necessary.
not a
She's
new
done-
application for
Okay.
manager?
She's done continuing certifications.
We're
on-
just doing this again because of the change in the corporation?
Right.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Maybe excused?
Please.
Do I have to ask that?
You don't have to
No,
wait.
Sorry, it's court, though. Thank you.
Denied.
Okay. And does anybody else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next is item 21 and 22. They're the application of Ichiban Szechuan for a Class I liquor license at 151 North 8th Street, Suite 100, and, as well as the related manager application. Would you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, my name is Mike Kelly, 7134 Pacific, appearing here with Jason DeYoung. This is a sushi restaurant, or I should say Ishiban Sushi Restaurant, not the Haymarket, excuse me. And they took over another restaurant. There was a prior application. That applicant, the owner, gave not Jason, the owner gave some inconsistent statements to the commission, and that wound up in a denial. So where he took it over, he was the manager in the last application as well, has gone through the training. They didn't have any problem with him. So he is taking it over at a reduced amount, and so we're here for any questions you might have. No changes, of course, in the operation or anything.
Questions? All right. Thank you. Anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next are items 23 and 24. They're the application of Korea House for a Class I liquor license at 5601 South 56th Street, Suite 11, as well as the related manager application of Richard Kim. Just raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth as you verily believe it to be?
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Yes, I-
Just state your name and address.
My name is Richard Kim. I tried to open a restaurant. It's a Korean restaurant, Korean food. It's Highway 256, 5601, 56th Street. I operate the liquor license.
Okay.
I used to be Tokyo Japanese restaurant and Shogun. I used to be a former owner.
Oh.
This is almost over 20 years, 3 times liquor license I operate.
Questions for Mr. Kim? Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next is item 25, application of 1867 Bar for a special designated license to cover an outdoor area measuring approximately 190 feet by 190 feet at Lincoln Journal Star parking lot at 901 S Street on July 7th between 4 p.m. and midnight, and July 8th between 2 p.m. and midnight.
Is anyone here for this item?
Hi,
Just state your name and address.
Kelsey Graves, 2785 Randolph Street, Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm here to get my SDL for Star City Pride. We have been selected to be the beer and liquor vendor at this event. Any questions?
Questions from council?
Yes.
Carl?
So this event has been in a different location for a few years.
Yes.
And so this is a bigger location?
Yeah.
And
I think it's a little bit smaller because last year it was behind the arena.
oh, okay,
So
that's
I-
right.
Yeah,
That's-
and
but
from my
before that.
knowledge, the arena was the one that did the liquor and beer.
Okay.
And so this year they decided not to, so they decided to move it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Questions? Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
Mr. Chair, I'd move approval of items 19 through 25.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Lyrian. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then are public hearing resolutions. Item 26 is approving renewal of the entertainment district license issued to TDP Phase 1 LLC, TDP Phase 2 LLC, doing business as Rail Yard Promotional Association LLC, in the area south of the Pinnacle Bank Arena, generally bounded by 7th Street and the north-south alley west of Canopy Street, R Street, and Q Street, including private properties known as the Rail Yard and Courtyard, adjacent to the Canopy Lofts and Hobson Hyatt Place Hotel, and all outdoor dining areas in the public right-of-way.
Greetings.
Andrew Willis with Klein Williams, 233 South 13th Street in Lincoln, on behalf of the Rail Yard Promotional Association, which is the entity that holds and manages this entertainment district designation and permit on behalf of TDP Phase 1 and TDP Phase 2. This is a renewal of the application that was approved in 2013. We're all familiar with the Rail Yard District, and so it was the first entertainment district in Nebraska. It's become a very vibrant area. It's really been a complement to and a catalyst for the continued growth in the West Haymarket area. This application would allow just continuation of what's existing down there right now. Not proposing any amendments or any changes to the license. It's really just maintaining the status quo. This application has been reviewed by both the Internal Liquor Committee and the Entertainment District Review Committee pursuant to the municipal code, and recommended forward by both. And so I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
Okay. Yes. Mr. Willis, could you spell Rumpelstiltskin? No. He was in the spelling bee recently.
And I got out very early in the spelling bee.
Okay, all right. So, in the application, there were a lot of comments that have been made and submitted over the years of operation of the rail yard. There were, you've got residents that live on one side, you've got, people in the hotels, you've got people that want fun all hours, you got a lot of competing interest here. How have you sorted through all of those challenges?
Yeah, it's been, it's certainly been I'd say a little bit of a learning curve, but a lot of those complaints you'll see were various things like the TV didn't have the right channels, and we wanted louder TV, and then someone wanted quieter TV. So it's definitely trying to find that mix of making everybody happy in that unique area. A lot of the ones of there's a third party that handles security, so that's kind of the main piece of the entertainment, the management of that district is maintaining that common area, and so there's a third party vendor that handles the security there, and that's kind of the primary piece of concern. Otherwise, it's continuing to listen to those complaints, the people across the street who want it quieter versus the people who want louder entertainment, and trying to figure out the right blend, and there's regulations on when we, the hours when we shut down at night and things like that.
And what's the mechanism that's in place when there are complaints? How is that heard and then dealt with?
As far as these types of complaints,
Any complaint that would come forward in the future?
well, they're submitted. They're submitted. some of these were submitted in various ways, but there is a staff person for the Rail Yard Promotional Association. That's kind of the point on, interfacing with crowds, complaints, businesses there.
Thanks.
Other questions? John?
Following up, could you address a little bit some of the modifications that have occurred in the security? I know there have been concerns there that maybe the individuals performing the security operations weren't really watching for over drinking or what have you, and if you could just address that, please.
I can hopefully address your question well enough. If not, maybe I can call up some backup. But I think the short answer is, it's a size. So increasing the number of staff that's there for certain events has been done, and then part of it is, again, this was a unique area. So there's as each each bar has their serving area, their windows, and just a lot of it's just logistics, figuring out where how people are moving out towards that fence, because it's all gated in. And so I think a lot of it is just increasing staff of security at events as they figured out what was going on, and placement and operations.
A couple other things. For the foreseeable future, will all of the all of the licensed facilities be participating then in events and so forth in the rail yard commons area?
As of right now, yeah, nothing. There's no changes. There's nothing I'm aware of that will be changing from what it is right now.
Okay. And then last time I want to mention, and I think I said to you in an email, but there's an item in here that talks about subsequent two-year renewals,
Mm-hmm.
and on that I'm going to make a motion and to delete that provision, so there'll just be a 2-year renewal. We come before the council. It's this pretty nice activity for Lincoln, and one you can do PR, plus we just have a review. So
The only comment I would make to that is, and obviously that's in council's discretion, and there's some benefit, and even if the process didn't come before you every 2 years, it goes before the Internal Liquor Committee and the Entertainment District Committee. But there's some benefit from TDP Phase 1 and Phase 2's perspective in those tenants down there getting, having the comfort of a longer period that's not reviewed every 2 years. So I would suggest there is some efficiency and some benefit there other than that, but again, that's in your discretion.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions? Jane?
Was that something recently added, though, to the contract that?
The 2-year?
The 2-year automatic extension? Was that in there
in the
before?
municipal code, it gives the council the authority to approve 2-year renewals by the clerk after review by those two committees. So it was been in the code for a while, but it's just a discretionary mechanism. But I think it was it's been since that code was enacted. Just really, this is the first time any of this is coming up.
Okay. Other questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Hey, I have a question from law, perhaps. Since we brought this up in this renewal thing, what was the purpose of this 2-year review?
To answer Councilmember Raybald's question, it was in the original resolution. When we took this to council originally, there was questions of whether or not council wanted a 2 or a 4-year permit. Council wanted a shorter permit period with the opportunity for review, but not necessarily to make the management of that area come back to council unless there were problems. And so what we did is we had created basically the existing ILC committee would have an opportunity to talk about legal issues or liquor issues, today. And then a second committee was created, which is called the Entertainment District Review Committee, and that looks at much bigger picture of things beyond liquor. And so what we did is we sent the application to those two committees. If those committees had any concerns, they had the option of either addressing it directly with the management or making recommendations to council. So at any point in time, the application could come to council rather than having an automatic renewal. And if everything was okay and the committees didn't have any changes or could address those changes, then they would authorize the clerk to issue the automatic renewal. Technically, the clerk could have issued another renewal in this case. It was my mistake. I had it in my mind that it was a 4-year So one renewal and then come back to council. And then when I dived into the old application, I realized actually the clerk could have issued another year, but I had called the Councilman Christensen and asked what he wanted to do. And because some changes and you hadn't seen it yet for 4 years, we thought it was best just to send it on to council and give you an opportunity to make any comments about the overall operation over the last 4 years and if you wanted to make any changes. So, and we had talked to Councilmember Camp today, and if he wants to make the motion, he can just simply make the motion and we'll strike that section and it'll just come back to you every 2 years. So, yes.
So I guess it gets reviewed on an annual basis by the two advisory?
Every 2 years.
Oh, every 2 years. And
yes.
So in their last review session, were there any issues of concern that they raised, or?
There were some questions as far as events and SDL, and it's a constant conversation with the city and the entertainment district area, and actually with other liquor licensees as to the proper amount of SDLs on a city street and how it would work. And we've struggled in this area with getting everybody on board. And also getting council on board for events sometimes. And I don't know that we've found the proper mix. The last time we came before council, I say we, but really the applicant came before council, they did not have the buy-in of everyone. The city staff decided to go ahead and move it forward without the buy-in from everyone to see what council wanted to do, because we could ensure that everyone that was not participating would have access to their business and to try it without 100%. Council didn't feel comfortable having that opposition on that event, and so council denied it. And so part of the conversation with both the Entertainment District Review Committee and the ILC was, how should these events move forward? Do they need 100% or do they need less? And that was pretty much the conversation from both. They reviewed the complaints, and there was really nothing major in those complaints. Part of that setup was to make sure there's a management person that complaints could be directed to, rather than them calling city staff all the time like what you get in other areas. So I think that has reduced city staff time. And then we reviewed the events that they have, and I don't know that any of the groups were opposed to the events or thought there should be more or thought there should be less. So I think it really was just the SDLs on the city street that we continue to struggle with.
Hallie Salem, Urban Development Department. I just wanted to piggyback on what Tanya said, in that we also were just looking at the management and the transition for the management of the rail yard as staff turned over, and just making sure that there was always somebody to address those complaints, and how the new person would be handling the events going forward. So I think that was the other topic of conversation.
Marion?
Just wanted to get a better handle on the public process as it is written. The ILC and the Entertainment District Review Committee both review operations. Is that right? ILC is definitely a public meeting. Is the Entertainment District Review Committee a public meeting?
It is not. Although, if members of the public would have called and had any concerns, either they would have been certainly could have came, or their issues would have been addressed at the meeting. But.
And are they sequential? Does one happen prior to the other then?
The Entertainment District Review Committee occurred first in this review. I don't remember 2 years ago which one came first.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me a little bit about the history of having a buy-in from all the tenants? Because I know that's a little different in a shopping center. Not all the tenants in a shopping center will participate in an activity or event sponsored. And I'm not necessarily saying that it involves alcohol, but it's not always customary to have 100% buy-in from tenants on any one type of joint marketing or promotional event.
Historically, when the events occur on city streets, the city has wanted 100% buy-in from the neighbors. And it doesn't mean that the neighbors participate in the events, just that the neighbors are okay with their street being closed, the parking being taken, or the sidewalks being closed. And if the business is open on that particular day, we need to make sure that they have access, their customers have access to the business or their employees without having to go through a liquor establishment to get to their business. So, for example, if you take, say, Zoo Fest downtown, we'll make the neighbors or ask the neighbors to sign off saying it's okay to close the streets. They don't need their customers to get there, and it requires the event organizer to work with that neighborhood to make sure it works. In this particular case, the people that are opposed to events are not always the same ones, and there are different personal reasons why they may be opposed. It might be the cost of it. It may be some disagreements with each other. And as I've told them for 4 years, this is a neighborhood, and for things to work, the neighborhood has to work together. But at a certain point in time, you also realize that one neighbor can't hold everyone else hostage. And so what we required of them is to make sure that if one was opposed or didn't want to participate, that they would block off the sidewalk or somehow ensure that the customers got to that business without having to pay or walk through a liquor establishment, which might require more fencing. So that last application you saw, that was the design. There may be a couple businesses that could actually hold everyone hostage because there's no other alternative route. But the last time it came before you, there was an alternative route for those businesses. But it's, like I said, it's really up to council in the end, but we encourage them to get as much 100% participation if they can. But it was a different route that we hadn't tried before. So,
Other questions? I have one. So if things, as things stand right now in the biennial review, if a council member who is not on the ILC wanted to have that biennial renewal come before the council, could that happen?
It's not really designed that way, but if really one wanted to, I think we would probably do it that way. Really, the ILC represents council, and you, from my experience, have taken the council member concerns and presented it at ILC meetings to be addressed and hopefully resolved. But we could certainly send it back if we had one that really wanted to bring it back.
Okay.
The only thing, and I don't have other than reviewing the resolution and getting it ready and going to 2 meetings, I mean, we can do this every 2 years. It will make the applicant need to get their application in about 18 months because to get the application to both committees and enough time to advertise before council, that's a good 2 months worth of time by the time we get everybody's schedule together. So that is just something to think about. They'll still have to get their application in, but we're really then only dealing with the 2 committees that have to figure out a time to meet. So that's just a little bit of work on staff part and to get everything to coordinate.
Cindy?
Thank you. I'm just a little bit confused because as I look at paragraph 3, it seems to indicate that there won't be a renewal application required, that there's some kind of a difference in this and in the current ordinance? Am I reading that correctly?
No, they still do a renewal application, so that way they let us know if anything changes. They submit their complaints to the city. They submit the business hours and everything in that document. It just doesn't come on to council for approval. It just stops at the 2 committees, and then if there aren't any issues, then the clerk issues an automatic renewal. But basically, the paperwork that you see today is what they'll have to submit again in 2 years.
And who gets to define what an issue is? Like you said, if there aren't any issues, because we're looking at pages of, whatever the complaints were.
Right. What I would say is it's the 2 committees that council formed. The Entertainment Review Committee, which is basically your sidewalk cafe committee. It's Health and Public Works and LPD and Urban Development, and it seems like there's always more people at that meeting. So they're looking at issues that are affecting their department, concerns that they may have heard from the public, issues that they dealt with the applicant. And then your ILC committee, which would be your 3 council members and those that they have asked to attend the meeting, which can include the university, law department, police, bars, restaurants, and other members that they ask that come to the committee that would present issues, and obviously the public that come to that meeting also.
So can any member of either of those committees request that it be sent on to the city council?
Yes.
Thank you.
So if you were not part of that committee, you could express your concerns to Councilmember Christensen. He could raise it at that committee, and then depending on what the 3 ILC members recommended, move it on to council.
Okay, so it would require that the entire committee, that there be a vote of the entire committee to move it on. One member cannot move it on individually if they have issues, and that would be the same of the other review committee as well.
I don't think the other committees really take a vote, but if there were any issues that needed to be addressed, we would just move it on. They're really not a
I'd like to
voting
depart from regular, our format here and have Carl just review for the other members of the council what kind of information we look at on a monthly basis at the ILC.
Wow. Well, thank you, Roy. Okay. ILC receives information from the Bridge Detox Center, and we get reports there from individuals who have been admitted, and we receive ages, genders, blood alcohol content, and we also receive the name of the venue where they said they had their last drink. In terms of where that has applied in this instance, most often that's just a generic rail yard and not a specific establishment there, but occasionally there might be a specific one. We also receive reports from LPD, from Investigator Schaefer, and what complaints have come from that process, individuals that have been prosecuted, and things that are done there. So that's kind of the information that we get in our monthly meetings. We have serious discussions about those concerns, and on a rare occasion where we see a venue that is particularly problematic in terms of the numbers of admissions to the bridge or other law enforcement problems, specifically underage drinking, those kinds of things, we will have conversations with those individuals.
Okay, thank you very much. Carl is the chair of the ILC, so that's why I called on him. All right, thank you very much. Would anyone else like to testify on this item?
Can I ask a question of the clerk? I know it's a little unorthodox, but given that she would be the one reviewing these applications, what would be the process from her perspective if it was not coming to the council?
It really wouldn't make any difference.
Okay.
I'm good either way.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, just, you would take the information from ILC, and do you have a checklist of criteria that you would be looking at in order to approve or deny?
I just submit the application to both committees and await for their response, generally by email. They'll send me a response back. And if there's any issues, then we'll bring it on to council.
Okay, I have a question for the applicant. And I would like to have you respond again to this idea of 2 versus 4 years and the impact it has on, or potential impact it could have on your business model.
I think either way this goes, every 2 years this is going before the committees. I think there's just as far as businesses coming in, the nature of this as tenants come in to see effectively a 6-year cycle that has renewals versus what's perceived more as a 2-year renewal period, particularly with the idea that if the application has to be in 18 months, it's less than that before you're filling out either way you're filling out your application again. But I think there's just more comfort on the parts of tenants who are investing quite a bit into a lease in an entertainment district to have it be seemingly more less fluid, maybe, I guess. I'm not, because of the 6-year versus a 2-year public hearing process. But either way, it's still being reviewed every 2 years. So I think that's the from getting tenants and getting tenant buy-in, that's where there's a big difference. Just the comfort level as they're making an investment in that lease.
All right, John?
Yeah, I don't see that has any change on it. I mean, there's just a 2-year period, and you're assuming that we're getting a 6-year period. I mean, the momentum's that way. It's just going to take something unusual, but the purpose of deleting that, from my standpoint, is to allow the public to come if they want. It appears no one came this time, whatever, and as far as time, it maybe add 2 or 3 weeks, that in that 18-month process, you're still going to be in good shape, so. I think this is responsibility that we need to do, and we do 1-year liquor license renewals, so, and SDLs, so for an entertainment district, one of its kind in the state, I think that's reasonable.
Okay. Anything else, Larry?
Could I ask Tanya a question again? John raised an interesting and important issue about our responsibility in terms of reviewing or holding public hearing on these issues. Can you speak to that for, are we in any way delegating a responsibility we should actually be executing in terms of public input?
Really what you are delegating is just the designation of the entertainment district permit designation. You're not approving any of the liquor licenses, any of the events that occur in the area. And that's certainly something you can delegate. Recently, you just gave the city clerk more authority over SDLs, which is something that is a pretty big delegation. This, in the grand scheme of things, to me is more minor. I think you have established your review and oversight that you're putting your trust in to bring any issues to you and just kind of taking one thing off your plate. But if you want the input from the public every 2 years, you can certainly have them come back before council. I guess basically what I'm saying is there's not a right and a wrong, there's an easier and a less easier option. I think what the applicant was just trying to explain is that anytime the tenant sees something that comes up before city council, it makes them nervous. You have a lot of authority and power, where the automatic renewal, when it goes to the committee, the tenants are not aware of that. That is something that's just between the applicant and the city in that review. The tenants really aren't involved. And so I think it's just more of a nervousness to think that something is coming before council. Whether or not it makes any difference, in the end, is not something they're probably considering. And none of them called me and complained. They do call me anytime an SDL comes before council because they're nervous about whether or not what you're going to do. I didn't have any calls in this particular one.
Okay, Jane?
So Tanya, for example, I'm not on the ILC, so I wouldn't have had an opportunity to read some of the concerns or issues that were raised about the volume and channel control, or for those individuals that were intoxicated. But that information that was on our agenda that we read, that goes to the ILC, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Cindy, and then Carl.
I actually have a question for Law, so if Carl has a question. Okay.
Lobby and Tanya, along
Okay,
and
that's
Jeff.
what you're gonna do. Okay, that's okay. So, you mentioned the recent action that we took to give authority to the city clerk on SDLs.
Okay.
And so when we reviewed an SDL this last football season, and there wasn't a complete buy-in by all of the tenants, then and we rejected that SDL. Have we now given away authority to do that to the clerk by passing what we already passed?
No, not in this area. The SDLs on city streets, anywhere in the city, still come to city council.
Okay.
It's just when it's on private property. And there again, the event has to have occurred at that location for a similar event with the same or similar type of applicant. Otherwise, the city clerk will be sending it back up to you.
Thank you.
Carl?
just was going to remind council members that once a year, we do offer the opportunity to participate in a bar walk. If anyone would like to meet council members at midnight on the appointed Friday evening and go see for yourself what might be going on in the rail yard and other places downtown.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to have a final rebuttal?
I was just gonna add one point of clarification. I think it was addressed, but, you know, this entertainment district permit is really the common areas that serves these different bars, and each one of those bars does have their own liquor license that they have to come apply for every time. So this essentially allows for that district, and then each individual bar or restaurant will come with their liquor license in order to participate and to be able to serve into that area. So I just wanted to make sure. So there still is quite a review process for each actual server of alcohol. The Rail Yard Promotional Association isn't serving or distributing any alcohol. They're just running the common area. So I just wanted to. So as far as review process, each one of those bars has to come make their application for their liquor license.
All right.
Question. So were there any complaints about the SDL at ILC in terms of, not SDL, any complaints about renewing the entertainment district that were debated, discussed, heard at ILC this time around?
There were no complaints from the public.
Okay.
But I was a part of both committees, and I know the ILC met for approximately an hour, and my recollection was the other committee met about the same amount of time. So there was a lot of discussion about the things that were enumerated in the comments of the application.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next is item 27, approving an interlocal agreement between the city and LPS to allow the city to place and manage outdoor recreational facilities on the former Arnold Elementary School site, generally located at 5300 West Knight Street.
Is anyone here to testify on this item? Here he is. Okay.
Sorry about that.
We're just deep in thought about liquor.
And trying to pick up some stuff that I dropped on the floor, unfortunately. Good afternoon, Lynn Johnson with Lincoln Parks and Recreation. As this comes up, this will be the location of the site. The current Arnold Elementary School is located at Northwest 48th Street and Cumming Street. The previous Arnold Elementary School was located in this position off of West Knight Street. The city has adjoining parkland immediately to the north of that. We also have a small park on the south side of West Knight Drive that was across the street from the elementary school. LPS has demolished that school, obviously. At the time that the school was demolished, there were play courts and there was a play field that was demolished as part of that. We have heard from neighborhood residents, both we and LPS have heard from neighborhood residents, that older elementary school age children and middle school age children need a place to play in that area. One of the phenomenon that seems to be happening is that older children are playing on the playground equipment at Eagles View, or they're hanging around on the playground equipment at Eagles View Park, and it's displacing some of the younger children from playing. From playing there. So we have worked with Lincoln Public Schools, and we've developed the interlocal agreement that's before you this afternoon. And it essentially does, three things. A little bit hard to see, but this is the former Lincoln Public Schools, Arnold Elementary School site. West Knight Drive is in this location. We would be placing a basketball goal in the parking lot that's there today. That parking lot essentially is not utilized, and we would put the basketball goal in the center bay of that parking to kind of protect it in case there are some vehicles that get parked there. Today there is an old wooden park shelter at the top of the hill, an area that's called Tanker Hill. And that shelter is kind of aged out at this point, and it's in need of replacement. And so we would propose to replace that picnic shelter with one at the base of the hill that's closer to West Knight Drive. And then the other thing we're proposing to do is, in cooperation with Lincoln Public Schools, develop a playfield on that site. So there'd be a place for pickup games of like football or soccer or lacrosse. The improvements, the basketball goal and the picnic shelter were included in our capital improvement program last year. This actually took longer to develop than we anticipated. And so we actually have the funding for those improvements in the capital improvement program. To develop the playfield, LPS would be bringing in topsoil, grading it appropriately, and we would be seeding it this fall. And then hopefully by sometime next spring or early summer, that'd be ready to play on. There are minimal ongoing operating expenses with that. We already visit this area because of Eaglesview Park on a regular basis. So at the time that the staff are checking the playground at Eaglesview Park, they would also be checking this area to see if there's any concerns. We would be adjusting the mowing patterns in the existing Arnold Heights Park to accommodate some additional mowing in this location. So the cost to the city really is that $28,500 that is included in the capital improvement program, and the ongoing maintenance expenses will be minimal. This is a 20-year agreement, or is proposed to be a 20-year agreement with Lincoln Public Schools. Either party would have the right to terminate if at some point Lincoln Public Schools decided they were either wanted to dispose of the property or they wanted to develop the property. The only facility that's really of significant value would be that park shelter, and it's a prefab metal building. We'd be able to pick it up and move it to another location. So essentially we'd be out the expense of the concrete pad and the sidewalk, but hopefully the neighborhood would have gotten an adequate amount of use by that point. The school board has reviewed this, and they did approve it on May 23rd, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Carl?
Yes, thanks, Lynn. The neighbors have really asked for this. This is something that they've been wanting for a while, so thank you. That field is in pretty rough shape because that's where the school was formerly, and then the destruction of the school then it wasn't cleaned up very well. So there's some bricks and rocks and things in there that need to be covered up so that it's a safe place to play.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's quite a bit of rubble, and I think it was 2012 when that school was demolished. And if you remember, it was a really dry season, and not much vegetative cover got established. So it's not really a great place for the kids to play today, and we're hoping by getting rid of some of that rubble, bringing in some better quality soil, that we'll be able to get some good quality turf established there. So it is a good place for kids to play.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Johnson? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
All right, next, our public hearing ordinances third reading. I'll call items 28 and 29 together. They are text amendment 17006, amending Title III Design Standards for Zoning Regulations, and text amendment 17006, amending the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to the Land Subdivision Ordinance, Title 27, and the Zoning Ordinance, Title 27. Land Subdivision Ordinance is Title 26.
Good afternoon, David Carey with the Planning Department. This is just for clarification, this is a continued public hearing on these items due to the need to have adequate announcement of our items for public hearing going into last week's meeting. These are two related items. We have a resolution in item 28, that is the design standards for the package of information that we talked about last week for updates to our zoning code and our design standards, as well as our subdivision ordinance. And Title 29 is the actual ordinance change, text amendment that goes along with that. We do have Lynn Johnson here. There was a question that was brought up at the last portion of this public hearing to clarify some information about some of the park standards that are being proposed to be removed from the design standards. And I'm also available for any other questions that you might have.
Thank you. Lynn Johnson with Lincoln Parks and Recreation. I think there was a question about Chapter 360 and the relationship that that has to kind of the guidance that we have when we develop public park areas.
Oh, can I just jump in? Sorry.
Please.
The question really was, if you delete these standards, where do other standards exist, and what could the public expect in terms of park maintenance? And I think there was some confusion about whether or not this was private parks or public parks, so hoping you can elaborate on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely, I'd be more than happy to. We've never used these standards, to be perfectly honest, but my understanding is that the intent when the standards that are part of the design standards were developed, it was to provide guidance when a private party was developing land that would be then dedicated to the city as a public park site. So the standards were never, my understanding, intended to apply to development of public parkland, but they were to provide guidance when a developer was developing land that might become public parkland in the future. We actually have what we call our best practices for grass and turf areas that was developed in cooperation with the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board back in 2009. It was updated in 2011. These are the guidelines that we work with, and it's in terms of our mowing practices. And this is everything from ball fields that are mowed 2 to 3 times a week to long grass areas that are mowed 2 to 3 times per season. And so if a citizen is interested in the standards or the guidelines that we utilize in determining the mowing schedule for park areas, these are the standards that are in place. These are available on the department's website. People can get to this information. We'd also be happy to make copies and mail them if people would like. There are also maps on the website that identify the mowing areas of all parks. So if somebody's interested in a particular park and they want to know what the mowing schedule is for areas of that park, that information is available online as well.
Questions for Mr. Johnson? Questions for Mr. Carey? Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item, these items? Next item.
All right, next is item 30, change of zone 17009, application of Ryan Ammel for a change of zone from AG Agricultural District to AGR Residential District on property generally located at Southwest 27th and Roxbury Lane.
Perhaps our applicant is not here as they were here last week. This is the continuation of the public hearing as well for notification purposes.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item, please.
Next is item 31, change of zone 3134E, application of Lucille Park LLC to amend the Willow Springs planned unit development at Lucille Drive and Pioneers Boulevard.
Is the same issue here?
They were here last week.
Would anyone else like to testify on this item? Next item.
Next is item 32, text amendment 17010, amending Title 27 of the Lincoln Municipal Code, the zoning code, for various revisions.
Same issue here or different?
Same issue here, continued public hearing, certainly available for any questions you might have.
Any questions? Would anyone else like to testify? Next item, please.
That concludes our public hearing. We can move into the voting session. Item 26, the renewal of the entertainment district license, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second. Moved by Jane, seconded by Carl. Discussion.
And Mr. Chair, I'd like to move an amendment to delete section 3 on page 2.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Cindy. Discussion on this amendment.
I think just as a comment, we've had quite a bit of discussion before this, but I think it's important that on this type of asset for the city of Lincoln that it come before us and give the public an opportunity to review that. It looks like we've got a good process to get it to us, but I think as a whole, that's a responsibility that we have as a city council.
Any other discussion? Jane?
Well, I feel pretty comfortable that it does go through a series of processes and review, and certainly open to the public for their input, certainly when it comes to complaints. And I really feel that we do delegate to a certain number of the committees that we serve on, and we do our work on each of those committees. And I certainly trust my colleagues to make sure that they delve into the issues of any concern that are brought to them. And I do feel comfortable that if there was a recommendation from the ILC that it should be brought to the full city council for review, that they would not hesitate to do that. So I don't know if this is creating another regulation or obstacle that they have to go through if it's just a standard routine review and approval. So I will not support that. In addition to that, I am concerned, and I know that I raised that issue about the businesses. This is impactful as they really make a tremendous investment in the lease and in their facility. And I see it as a redundancy as well, because they have to apply for their liquor license. And certainly if there were any concerns on their liquor license, that would be a big flag that the ILC would certainly see and review and bring to our attention as well, and the Liquor Commission.
Carl?
Thank you. 6 years ago, we broke ground on the arena in the West Haymarket. And at the same time that more public work was going on, the Internal Liquor Committee broke ground on the legal work, thinking about how would an entertainment district work for us. And it was all, pretty much hypothetical. We did utilize information from Kansas City and their entertainment district and how things were done there, and made changes in ways that we thought better fit our community. But it was a little bit of an unknown, and I think it's worked very well. My sense is that Internal Liquor Committee has had good participation from the rail yard, and on occasion we've had meetings with rail yard management or with individual establishments there. Internal Liquor Committee is the only committee of City Council. There's 3 of us that sit on that committee and meet monthly to deal with these kinds of issues. And when we have those meetings, we're dealing with a lot of specific, sometimes hard information that more than likely wouldn't be dealt with in this more public arena, I guess. So I tend to like what we're doing now. I think it does work well, but we'll go on either way.
Cindy?
Thank you. So I too appreciate the work that my colleagues do on the ILC. I do, though, have a couple concerns about delegating responsibility at this particular point in time, because, like as you say, this is a fairly new type of designation in the city of Lincoln, and just recently there's been lawsuits filed on both sides of the entertainment district and the tenants and so forth. And so I'm not comfortable making this change at this time. And so, which is one of the reasons I would support the amendment that Councilman Camp is proposing.
Okay, any other comments? I will make a comment then before I call for a vote on the amendment. I understand what you're trying to do, John. I really believe that the ILC, I know the ILC does a comprehensive job in reviewing these kind of things. And I think that the only voting members on the ILC are sitting here at this dais right now. There's nobody else who impacts the voting, just us. And I think your concerns could, we're keeping that authority within the council by maintaining this, the ILC being in charge of this. And I think if we would just inform the rest of the council every year, every 2 years when we do this review would be, and if anybody had concerns, we would certainly take them up in the ILC. But I can tell you this, any kind of meeting where we would be completely reviewing the same things, issues we review on the ILC, would cause this meeting to be 1 to 2 hours longer every time we do that, at least. So, while I respect what you're trying to do, I'm going to not vote for this amendment. So, please call the roll.
Shope?
No.
Camp?
Yes.
Christensen?
No.
Eskridge?
No.
Gaylor Baird?
No.
Lamb?
Yes.
Raybold?
No.
Motion lost 2-5.
Now on the main motion.
Shope?
Wait
sorry.
a minute. Discussion on the main motion.
Can I just, given the concerns that John raised and the idea that should there be issues and how that's defined. Can we just have kind of a informal maybe commitment from the ILC that if just even one person votes against it, you would raise those issues, at least share them with us? I don't know.
Sure.
I think that might be part of the concern, is that we'd all want to be aware of any dissent within the ILC. Is
Sure.
that,
Yeah.
okay.
If council would like, when we receive their renewal application, I can certainly email it out to all
Forward to the whole
of you.
council, too.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
Just let me know if that's what you want to do.
Well, sorry.
Carl?
Yeah, I think that's welcome. I think in the conversation that we've had with the management of the rail yard, what we understand is they've really making a push to make this rail yard, this entertainment district, something that is a real highlight for the community and something that can be utilized as it has been, but even more so, and as a real asset to attract people to visit our community and hopefully attract some younger residents to stay here, and so to see it as a real benefit. And that's certainly our goal, and as the ILC, is to make certain that this is an asset for the community, something that draws people and is a positive.
I guess just a clarification before we vote too. If in fact something like this could always be put to the council if there was an issue, it seems to me that the scheduling, it'd be necessary to schedule with that buffer of time regardless of what the resolution says. So it just might make sense to take that earlier approach, but there won't be any formal requirement that it be set to council.
Okay. All right, please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 27 is approving an interlocal agreement between the city and LPS, introduced by Raybold.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jane, seconded by Carl. Discussion. Please call the roll. Oh, we have Carl.
Well,
Yeah,
just
sorry.
again, this is a great partnership between LPS and the city. There are limited play spaces in this neighborhood, the old Air Park neighborhood, and to have this, these athletic fields for older kids to be able to utilize is a great thing.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. We have no public hearing ordinances second reading. Public hearing ordinances third reading. Item 28 is text amendment 17006, amending Title III Design Standards for Zoning Regulations, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Larry and seconded by Jane. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 29, text amendment 17006, amending the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to land subdivision ordinance Title 26 and the zoning ordinance Title 27, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Larry and seconded by Jane. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Next then is item 30, change of zone 17009, application of Ryan Olmel for a change from AG Agricultural to AGR Agricultural Residential at Southwest 27th and Roxbury Lane, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Larry and seconded by Jane. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 31, change of zone 3134E, application of Lucille Park LLC to amend the Willow Springs planned unit development to adjust the setbacks at the perimeter of the PUD to accommodate an office building with a drive-through facility at the northwest corner of Lucille Drive and Pioneers Boulevard, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Larry and seconded by Jane. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0. Item 32, text amendment 17010, amending Title 27 of the Lincoln Municipal Code regarding the zoning code, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Larry and seconded by Carl.
Can-
Discussion?
Larry.
I just think this is a great idea. It's going to expand access to solar energy in our community, and it's one way the city can do more to promote renewable energy sources. So I intend to support it.
Carl?
Great. It's one of the really good things. I mean, this is a neighborhood organization that has come together and providing renewable power. And if other neighborhoods in our community do the same thing, that helps to reduce our need for acquiring more power through other means. And so it's important. And I also happen to like that this particular site that's being utilized in this case is land that's really not useful for anything else particularly, and it's also a visible site. So people on I-80 will come by and they'll see this and they'll think, there's something about Lincoln as being a progressive community. So hats off. Thanks.
Very good. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge,
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Ordinance's third reading, item 33, approving a Star Tran transportation agreement between the city and UNL for the Route 24 Holdridge and Route 25 Vine Intercampus Bus Service route for a 5-year term. Introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Cindy? Wow, it's changing up. Moved by Larry and seconded by Cindy. Discussion. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Next then is item 34, ordinance to readopt ordinance 20304, adopted on March 14th, 2016, relating to text amendment 16001, amending chapter 2759 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to airport zoning regulations, introduced by Gaylor Baird.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Larry and seconded by Carl. Discussion? Cindy? Not Cindy. Larry? Thank you.
Well, it seems like some thanks are in order to all the people who are involved in this lengthy review process. This change will continue some necessary protections for aircraft approaches, but it also improves the permit approval process and makes it less costly for the home building community and ultimately for home buyers. So I intend to support it.
Carl?
And just, again, good cooperation with home builders and with the airport authority, making certain that the safety issues of the airport are addressed while the needs for additional housing locations are provided as well. Good work.
Okay, please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Item 35, text amendment 17004, amending chapter 27.59 of the Lincoln Municipal Code relating to airport zoning regulations, introduced by Camp.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Jane.
We do have a motion to amend number 1 on this.
I would move motion to amend number 1.
We have a second?
Second.
And this would reduce publication costs as far as posting the ordinance on the city bulletin board.
Okay. The amendment has been moved by John, seconded by Jane. Discussion on the amendment. Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
Now on the main motion. Discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0. Our resolutions on first reading are items 36 through 41. Our ordinances first reading are items 42 through 45. And no open microphone.
Mr. Chair, I'd move for adjournment.
Second.
Moved by John, seconded by Jane. No discussion? Please call the roll.
Schob,
Yes.
Camp,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Eskridge.
Yes.
Gaylor Baird,
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Raybold.
Yes.
Motion carried, 7-0.
We are adjourned.